Hi, I'm Libby. Welcome to Fully Charged Life. Happy New Year and happy opening to a new quarter century. Today, I want to speak about the vision of fully charged life and really welcome the abstraction of it. And when I say I want to welcome the abstraction, I mean I want to speak to you as you're listening to this directly and let whatever this means to you emerge. So I want you to consider, as I speak with you, that it is the year 2025. You can take account for whatever age you are in this year. For me, this year will mark 30 years on the planet. And as we open to this year and this moment, we are at a precipice. We are at an opening in the way artificial intelligence will shift our relationship to each other, to work, into how we relate to our own minds. And as I speak these words, maybe images are already popping in your head of what that means or looks like. It could be fears, it could be anger, could be stress, could be excitement, could be joy, could be discovery. And both of these internal experiences are completely valid. And the outer experiences that will begin to take place as a result, both of the artificial intelligence and of our response to it, is what we get to begin to anticipate now. So, for this conversation, I want to ground you within your own being. I studied user experience design, and then I also studied embodiment and connection to the body. And so, when I'm even offering this conversation, I want to invite you to connect to a kind of different space in you than you're potentially used to feeling when you're in a virtual environment. Can you notice your belly button right now? Can you notice the space just below your belly button? Can you feel the weight of your body on this chair or bed or couch? Can you feel your feet on the floor? Can you feel where your back is? Can you take a deep breath in from that belly button space? And as you exhale, allow it to move down the shoulders, down the back, releasing tension in the spine. Can you choose to look off of this screen, off of what you're doing, and see in the distance or something further away? And can you just listen and let your chest and shoulders begin to open? So, here in this discussion, you're welcome to come back to the screen now. Here in this discussion, I want you to be centered in this relationship to this body that you are in, even as you take in this sound transmission. One of the most challenging things in spaces of transition is using language, because it's in transition that we want to pull in language that we already know to understand what is happening. And yet, this language is limited. For example, if you look at the life of a dragonfly who lives the first part of its life underwater and then goes through a stage of transition where the water actually is used to open up its wings and have it transform from living in a state underwater to a state of flight in the air above the earth. If it tried to use the language of the water to understand what was happening and where it was going, it would be limited. The language that we use is in this next part of our lives is at times going to resemble or be the same as the language we're using now, but it's my belief that it also will drastically change. And so while right now conversations around technology have a lot to do with social media, the words content, content creation, artificial intelligence, website, digital presence, virtual reality, lived reality, reality itself in the way we experience it will continue to shift. And it's my hope at Fully Charged Life to begin to offer language. First, space where we can release language, but also language to be bringing our attention to at the same time that what's happening in the virtual is getting so much attention. So you can think of it like this. If a kitchen was being built and someone, let's say, had previously only been using a fire to cook, the things they could do were going to be limited to that fire, including the length of time to build the fire, the length of time that things cook on that fire. And then, depending if they had a cooling situation, the preservation of the food or the dispersing of the food because of the lack of something to keep cool. Now, I want you to imagine that same person who'd been using a fire to cook now has access to a stove. They have access to being able to turn a switch and have the light come on and boil water like that. They have access to a refrigerator where they can actually preserve food. They have access to cutting boards, knives. They have access to a microwave. The whole process of cooking, the whole process of what a kitchen is, and therefore the whole process of the rest of their life is going to shift based on the tools in that kitchen, based on food, because it's a need that the day-to-day life of a human has food. And so when our relationship to consumption of food, the preparation and the consumption of food shifts, so the rest of our life shifts. When it comes to technology, we're looking at similar shifts that are coming. We're looking at things that we can't perceive yet because the things that the technology will do are things that we don't yet even know how to take account of. And with this comes a crisis of meaning, a crisis of purpose, a crisis of where to put our time, a crisis of identity with ourselves, with each other. With this also is going to come opening, exploration, new qualities of time, new ways of seeing each other. And it's my hope with Fully Charged Life that the entire discussion around this transition could be bigger and broader than whatever the discourse is around the technology itself that's being invented. Because the technology itself also will get to look radically different as we own our leadership here. Right now, the iPhone, the iPad, the laptop, the devices that exist, as well as Instagram, Meta, X, the main platforms with which we connect, are being constructed and created by few compared to what the world is. The decisions being made in these hubs impact the way that we think from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep. And we're talking about not just a shift in the technology being made, but a shift in who is building it, how, and how it serves us. This transition is emotional, it's social, it's political, it's economic, it's spiritual, and it is made to be participatory, not just in the logging in on these devices and participating there within the squares being designed for us, but participatory in us seeing ourselves as part of the creators and animators of the very design of the intelligence that will birth the new leadership, the new life that's also coming forth with this shift. If some of these words and pictures have led you to become out of body right now, I invite you to come back into the body, come back to the seat that you're sitting in, come back to the back of the chair, come back to your eyes, not looking at the screen, but looking ahead. I invite you to recognize that the things that I'm saying and how they are resonating or not resonating with you involve things that you will experience in your lifetime and things that are well beyond you. Things that will begin in our lifetime and things that began well beyond us, well before us. And with this, I invite you to connect with a experiment about the worth, the power, and the depth of your life well beyond the ways that you have been spoken to about your life. Because hand in hand with the technological and social revolution before us is the revolution of consciousness, of how we actually see ourselves, relate to ourselves in relationship with everything else around us. And we've been indoctrinated and living in a culture right now that is very focused on the I and the me and the my. And at the same time that this technological social revolution is happening, so is a revolution in consciousness, an awakening, an opening, where we're being offered the most beautiful invitation. It's an invitation that's so hard to even wrap our heads around or receive. And it makes me emotional because I've spent a lot of time with my relationship coaching, allowing people to step into the power of themselves as an individual, because this process alone is so needed and so good and so beautiful. And the gift and the power of this moment is stepping into this duality of the complete irreplaceability of who we are as individuals and this much larger, expansive experience of life that we are in. I invite you to find a space within yourself now of excitement, whatever has been resonating in what I'm speaking, whatever fear might be present. I invite you to notice that something in you is actually delighted and excited by what I'm talking about, delighted and excited about a whole new revolution in time, in relating to our day, in the expansiveness of what life is going to be about, on the one hand. And on the other hand, this revolution in consciousness, this expanded understanding of the we, the interconnection beyond this individual understanding. And I invite you just to lean back into your chair a little bit more and consider that at this moment that you've been brought into the world, there is something, someone in your lineage, in your family, in your culture, who is beckoning you, beckoning to you with a message, with a pattern that's ready to be broken, with a gift that's ready to be brought. And it might just be for you, and it might be for the people around you. And you can stay with that, or I also invite you to look toward these future generations that will be here in 2125, 2225, 2325, 3125. And for a moment, just whether it's 100 years or 1,000 years, open your heart to them. Open your heart to this expansive future child, you, great great grandchild, who is getting to live in a world with a gift that you brought right now in 2025. When we're looking at a fully charged life, when we're looking at digital wellness, we're not just looking at how we spend our day logging on and logging off a phone, although these are the actual habits that I work with people in the day to day. We're looking at opening to a completely renewed relationship to ourselves, the unknown, and our relationship to the creative process that is unfolding through us. I wish for you and for us humility, patience, slowness, sensitivity, perseverance, and love in this transition. And I'll just close with a couple of quotes that come from from several traditions that I study that have supported me in my own opening, as well as my perspective on digital wellness being something well beyond technology alone. The first comes from the Baha'i faith, and it's a phrase that says, "My calamity is my providence. Outwardly it is fire and vengeance, but inwardly it is light and mercy." Calamity means, oh, I shut all this down, but essentially your pain as your gift. And the fire, what feels like fire, being light and mercy. And this recognition of contrast of what is being experienced versus what is coming, the gift that is in there, is mirrored in many spiritual traditions. I've also studied Tantra and the relationship of owning more of the light and dark as a complete picture. And there's a goddess, Kali, in the Tantric tradition, who is seen as this kind of force of dark feminine, creative energy that helps to destroy, purify, and clear what's ready to be cleared. And some quotes used to describe her, inspired by her, are, I'm the divine force that resides within you, unshackling you from all that binds you and giving you the strength to rise. Embrace your darkness, for in the deepest shadows, the light of transformation is born. Another spiritual framework that I study with is called the Gene Keys. And in the Gene Key framework, there are 64 archetypes inspired by the Chinese I Ching. And there's a certain time of year where each of these archetypes is dominating. And so right now we have the 38th gene key, which is all about perseverance. And there's a quote from the founder, Richard Rudd, that says, "What will we do with each precious day of our life?" The 38th gift tells us, find a fight worth fighting and pour ourselves into that. The human spirit is indomitable. It loves to reach and stretch and break new ground. We won't be happy in life unless we are to reach and stretch and break new ground, no matter who we are. And the final is from activist and writer James Baldwin, who said, "Those who say it can't be done are usually interrupted by others doing it." And another quote that says, "It is certain in any case that ignorance allied with power is the most ferocious enemy justice can have." It's my belief that part of this transition and revolution that we're a part of right now is one where the opposite of ignorance, allied with power, will become the most ferocious advocate justice has ever had. And we get to be a part of it. Have a beautiful start to the year.